change the scene for anybody listening. All right. Well, hey, everybody out there in TV land. I know this is unexpected, but Senpai, we're going to need to change that scene. Hang on a second. So the scene, remember?
Senpai, come on.
Senpai,
Senpai.
we're going to need to change the scene back to everybody. So we're still learning the kinks, guys. So, yeah. Yeah. All right, there you go. All right, cool. All right, guys. So we're gonna try this again. So, anyways, guys, hey, appreciate you guys checking out this stream. I know it's Sunday in the afternoon. It's not typically the normal time that we go live, but we have a special guest with us today, and I'm making sure that I'm following the lives here to follow any questions you may have. And we are going to pretty much introduce the Flynn studio that's here at Flynn's Hobby that we've created and worked on diligently since, I don't know, May of last year. Well, May of last year we got the lease and stuff. So we opened to the public in September. So anyways, you're not used to seeing my face, especially on Sundays, but we're here and we're hoping to make this something consistent. This is all about just an introduction of Flynn Studio, what it is, what we're going to be offering, and all sorts of good stuff with that. But I wouldn't be here without my co-host and special and one of our good friends here at Flynn's family, Danny Whitco, right? That's how you pronounce it?
I guess so.
Okay, so maybe I emphasize it too much. But anyways, so we are super stoked, and we're trying to get used to guys looking at what cameras we're supposed to look at. So we're going to see kind of an evolution as we change through things. So you might see us looking at the wrong cameras because we have multiple cameras here at Flynn Studio, and we're getting used to this. So like anything, usually the first one through the wall is the bloodiest, so it's just going to take a time for us to get through it. And of course, before we start going through everything, guys, I'm going to launch all the lives on my computer so that I can follow along with any chats that may be going on so we can reply to your questions or your comments or anything that you have, I don't know, rolling around in that great mind of yours. So anyways, Danny, thank you so much for the inspiration and the push to keep everything going. That's really helpful. So most of our Flynn's family probably has seen Danny and her husband, Chris, here at Flynn's during our events. We have shared her social media across multiple platforms on Instagram, all sorts of stuff. And she has helped us immensely, and also Chris, holding the camera, helped us immensely in
specific measure.
Yeah, because Chris is a very tall guy, so he has that perfect deal, exactly where he holds the camera. So they have been here, and we met you guys probably
like a year ago.
Yeah, the first celebrity appearance you came out with was what?
Danny Cooksey.
So when Danny was here.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like last year sometime.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly when it was, but yeah. So
I think around March, more or less.
I think so. Yeah. So Danny and Chris have been with us for a long time. You've seen them both at different events and also reshared content. And Danny is a huge asset and a huge help here to take the cameras and all our gear out to different events. I know we have a bunch of content that I need to finish editing for Animate Miami. Yeah. Danny did a release on those details as well. And we had one for Kishi that we had this past 2 weeks, basically a week from Friday. Yeah. So a week from Friday. So anyways, yeah. So that's where we met. And how did you find out about Flynn's?
Well, good question. It's just that being here in Florida, and especially South Florida, you have all kinds of events. But what I really felt attracted about Flynn's is because I'm very old-fashioned. I like retro, what we call now retro stuff.
Right.
I'm from the 90s, but still it's called now retro. But I love all that pop culture. I'm from Peru, but I was raised with all these America's or United States pop cultures. So, for example, the Power Rangers, WWE, or all of that, all the cartoons, Cartoon Network, we have seen in all those events. And seriously, it's been a delight to find a place where you can actually feel that you are connecting with your inner child, and that your inner child still survives somehow. Here is like a safe space for kids and for adults as well.
Right, yeah.
That you feel entertained all the time. You play, you talk, you buy stuff, and it's fun. It's fun in all the ways. It's like I would call it like a small Disneyland for adults.
So it's like a Disneyland for nerds, you know,
Yeah,
where we don't charge you $120 a ticket to come in and enjoy yourself.
and still you have fun.
Yeah, yeah, you still have fun, and it's always been $15. And I get asked occasionally about increasing pricing and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, where we currently sit, $15 is kind of like a good spot, and once again, at Flynn's, we're not about like exploiting people, so we'll do it for what we can do. So I appreciate you finding out about us. Did you Google us, or was it a friend of yours that?
It was a friend of mine who said, "Hey, we have the opportunity of making an interview. We connect with these people, and then we talk about it." And
Right.
it was right it. And something that, I feel like at the end of the day, we connect with my brand is that when you do this stuff, when you do Flins, you do it with passion because it's something that you love.
Right.
Yes, you said you do it for the nerds community.
Right.
I'm a total nerd,
Yeah.
and I do all my stuff also in fashion, but for making women feel more confident about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when I hear your philosophy of and your vision of Flings, it kind of connect with mine.
Right.
So that's how I feel like I keep meeting these guys and going to their events and see what's going on. And here we are. Welcome to Flings Studio for all the future podcasters.
Exactly, and that brings us to a point, guys. We wanted to create this opportunity for Flynn Studio to allow our community to have a voice
Yes.
and have a space that is affordable enough for them to come in and, I don't know, you could do voice acting things, you could do music recordings, you could do podcasts, you could do live streams. There's like so many different things that you can utilize the space for. So it was Danny's idea, and all credit to her about making this initial like introduction. And I'm assuming the goal is we're going to obviously have this on live on all our social media channels. I'm sure she'll take the recordings and the audio and all that good stuff and chop it up and do what you do with it, and then share it across all her social media platforms. And then I'll give you a way to interact with us. So before we get into that and what Flynn Studio is and how it's going to work or how it is working, so Danny, you kept mentioning your brand. Now, I try to pronounce the name of it because I am Hispanic. Well, my dad's from Colombia, but I don't typically do very well with Spanish names, pronunciations. So you can find Danny on Instagram and other social media platforms. And what is it? Well, how do you say the name?
Camaleónicas. It's like chameleon
For chameleon?
in Spanish and plural because I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking for all women and for people out there.
Okay.
So and the reason I chose that name is because I wanted something that was like interesting, but at the same time that talks direct to the people. Like for example, I don't believe in just one that people should be just one thing because nobody's just one thing in this life.
Right, right.
So for me, for example, I studied theater, I became a publicist, I do interviews, so I'm a wife too now, so I do all this bunch of stuff, and I love to do all this bunch of stuff, and each part is part of my evolution, part of my daily basis, my activities, and it makes me all day long. So that's how I decide for the name, and also, but well, again with Flames, I feel like we are introducing to all these words to these people, and people can choose whatever they want. They have a variety of stuff, and everything is welcome. First of all,
Yeah.
everything could be listened, and everything could be exposed to because we are creating something that is for the community.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely Flynn's focus has always been about the community, and so we are doing our best with Danny's input, with Chris's input, with our Flynn's family's input to create as many opportunities as we can to help that community have a voice. And so 100%, your brand lines up perfectly with that. And you also have there's another social media channel too.
Yeah, well, I have my own that
Your
is
own.
Danny Whitco.
Right.
And it's my husband says I write it as a guy, and it has a reason.
Okay.
Actually, because in my country, in my times, there was just 5% of women who wanted to be creative directors in advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't find jobs, and I never put my picture, and I decided to put my name as a guy.
Oh, so DANNY.
Yeah,
Oh.
and that's how I received the interviews. And sometimes I went there, all with dress up, and guys were like, "What? Are you a woman?" Yes, I'm a woman. Thank you so much for the interview.
Really, it's that bad.
Yeah,
There's like a stereotype behind it or something.
it was a stereotype in those times. We're talking about 15 years ago. Please don't say
Right,
the wrinkles.
right.
But it's true. It used to happen. And that's actually how they saw my resume and they gave me the chance for an interview without even know if I was a guy or a girl.
Interesting.
That's how I became Danny, and now, well, Danny Whitcock as I got married.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So, I mean, once again, guys, follow Danny on all her social media channels. I'm just going to spell it for you. And I'm sure when she posts, we'll reshare. So be sure to refollow, guys. It's CAMALEONICAS.
Mhm.
So it's a long name, but do your best with it and be able to follow and for more content and all that kind of stuff. Because you're actually not just with like brand awareness stuff. Like fashion is a focus of yours
Yeah.
or has been.
Well, no, it's my fault.
Okay.
But it's also, well, part of what I said. I believe there is a chance for everybody to be a beautiful butterfly and to expose what they really want to be.
Right.
And again, we come back to what's going on with my country where I come from. Generally, it's too traditional, certain stereotypes, and people can just be who they want to be sometimes.
Right.
So everything I do, it's always for, it has a focus or a purpose, not on me. It's for something bigger. That's how I feel it.
And I don't think you said what country you're from.
Oh, I'm from Peru. It's a beautiful country. Don't get me wrong. I love my country. I will happily die proudly Peruvian. But yeah, there's some limitations like that I was always concerned about, and I always wanted to do something more for my community.
Okay. Yeah, and then once again, guys, the content is you're very consistent with it. So that's really admirable because a lot of social media channels consistency is key, and consistency. And then also, just as a side note, before we dive into Flynn's studio and everything we have going on over here, just something to consider is about the brand, like not brand awareness, but we talked about that before, where it's like brand marketing
Hmm.
or like creating a brand. How is a brand like, I don't know, putting the right pieces in place? And a lot of people don't consider that when they're building a business, or even if it's something fun, because something fun could potentially turn into something remarkable.
Yeah.
And now you have to go backwards, like me, and go backwards. And then be like, oh man, now I have to redo this all over again. And that's not a lot of fun to do because you're already 5 years in. Now I have to go and fix all these things I didn't think about, at that point. And that's where I've gotten a lot of amazing tips and ideas from you and all the information you provided to us here at Flynn's and saying, oh, you could do this different, or even like your insights for we attended Animate Miami last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and your thoughts there with that of like, hey, this is how it could be improved upon. So just before this Flynn Studio stuff, you have your eye on branding. What made you get into that? Like, how did you run into that world?
I have to say, my father,
Okay.
and also Disney.
Okay, your father and also
Yeah,
Disney.
because when I came here the first time, I was 1998. I was 8 years old, and I went to Disney World with my family. And instead of being just a little girl who is like, wow, this world of fantasy, of course I knew these are not real people, the ones
Right.
behind it.
Yeah.
Like, I never had that imagination in my life,
Right.
unfortunately. But I love the experience. But also, as being the father of, my daughter's father. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
daughter's
Yeah.
your father's daughter.
Yeah, sorry.
father's
I always
daughter.
confuse that
It's
for
okay.
even in Spanish. And I actually see everything with marketing, like eyes, because that's how my father raised me. I used to be late to high school just because going to Starbucks to study marketing books at 12, 13.
Whoa, really?
So, yeah, my father prepared me for being in advertising.
Yeah.
So when I went to Disney, it was like at 8. Imagine that, a little 8-year-old thinking, oh, how can you use this brand and how this brand is working, like, and the icons, like the Mickey icon working everywhere, and you do ice creams and you do balloons, but it's not like, oh, what a beautiful balloon. For me, it was like, wow, how the people is feeling the experience and feeling the awareness and feeling the marketing reputation. So yeah, I capitalized on everything in that time.
A lot of people have this idea of like starting a business or starting something up, whether or not it's a podcast or a YouTube channel or even, I don't know, a sticker collection. And you're spot on. A lot of people aren't aware of these tactics and these marketing tools and things to be conscious of just because not everybody's going to have a father like yours. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, let me show you what this is doing or like what they're subliminally selling us. And I agree 100% with you. Like with Flynn's, when we started Flynn's 2018, conceptually, it just started with a simple idea of saying, okay, well, um, I always, usually most of my business ventures start with, I have an idea. And I say that out loud. Like, I was like, I have this idea. And then I started thinking, well, there's this resurgence of, nostalgia, and Americans love entertainment
Yes.
and also being as affordable as possible. And then I read a great book called This Is Marketing by Seth Godin. And I've talked about it before to our community, where it's a little orange book, probably take you about maybe a day or two to read through it. I sat down, I had my notebook. I wrote all these notes about creating like brand advocates and super fans and understanding the community that you serve. And once you understand the community you serve and the message you want to present, it's really not that difficult, but it's difficult for me to remain consistent.
And you know what? Something that is very funny nowadays, because I have been a teacher for also like 4 or 5 years
Right.
already, and have talked in universities about this, because I always say young people to the ones who are starting university in my country. They start around 18, 19 years
Okay,
old.
yeah.
So for me, they because they born in this environment of digital communications, they do believe that everything started yesterday. And that's something I always tell them. The world didn't start yesterday. So if we want to come back to the basis of marketing, and for example, the pandemic is a good explanation of which kind of brands survive.
Okay, yeah.
Is not the ones to just make a good business. That's a really key point. You have to first of all be productive,
Yeah.
of course, but then also, if we see a second step, the ones who actually work their brand have a still better profit than the ones who forgot it in the way.
Okay.
If you measure
Right.
those things,
Right.
the ones who actually work their brands more are a little better. I won't say excellent, because nowadays this world is a chaos, but they are a little better than the ones who didn't.
And what do you mean by work their brand?
Like, for example, what we were talking about, brand awareness, actually build the status of your brand, your position, how is the perception of the people, which are your real targets, how those targets can evolve from time. So all those things, how to create, for example, a manual. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
he knows now how much I love manuals. Seriously,
Yeah.
I have. At this point, I think I send you a Bible.
Yeah. You have it's quite extensive. Quite extensive.
But at the end of the day, it helps you in case you're not here, or you go on vacations, and somebody, you know, have to work it, will understand every single step of what you can do with your brand at this point. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
Because also it has happened to me several times, even with bigger companies, international companies, that you bring it from the regional to the country, and the country manager wants to do anything that is against the manual. And then there's somebody like me who says house rules.
Right. Yeah.
He knows about house rules.
Yeah.
Hey, your manual says exactly the opposite. Don't do this. So, because otherwise we are going to be in trouble as a publicist with the regional management, and it has happened.
Yeah. It kind of keeps you focused,
Yes.
and it keeps the company moving in a certain direction. Now, it may not be for everybody, meaning like what you're doing, you don't really want to create a brand behind it.
Mhm.
But I argue the fact of why not? Because you never know where it could take off, or just the organization or the mission behind it. Like having Flynn's now, for having the privilege and honor to be one of the leaders of Flynn's and its direction, has taught me many things of, well, you got to consider parking, and you got to consider street exposure, and you have to consider, the way the text font is and what color it is, and is it readable, is it legible, and also like, I'm big into like color psychology and understanding what colors mean and all those different facets. And I would say the underlining foundation is just constantly learning.
Mhm.
Complacency is death, in my opinion, like being complacent and not pushing yourself to learn more constantly. And especially like you said, with all the resources, there's so many like there's so many opportunities, and all this stuff is free.
Hmm.
Just have to sit back and dive into it. But once again, it does require you to make that sacrifice of time. So on the topic of branding and brand awareness, are there any specific resources that like you make use of that you think maybe people watching that maybe will use Flynn Studio one day or tomorrow or whenever could make use of?
Yes, I mean the important thing is always to start with the beginning. What's the concept of your brand, and what kind of experience you want to bring to your target?
Right.
You know, because people will say, "Oh yeah, I just want them to buy something," but it's not about just the product. It's about the whole experience. How you're going to introduce yourself. How are these people going around the store, if it's a store or something? How these people is going to connect with your vision,
Right.
with your all your senses actually
Right.
involved, the audios, even your mouth, if you can remember something like flavors or everything has an experience to tell you, and it's going to be part. And this is something very important because this is something I learned not from market. Well, yes, in marketing somehow, but most of all for from my English class, because I my first career was English teacher for kids when I was 19. And my accent was much better, I swear, in those times.
Right.
And I learned that kids and then adults study everything by association. So when you are in your first years, when you are studying to write, to read, studying numbers, one of the things that kids connect the most, and then people connect the most in their lives because it's part of marketing, is what is around you, your environment, and how you feel inside your environment. So, for example, there's where you go with the cartoons, where you go with the experiences of the mouth, because babies, for example, eat everything through the mouth to understand the world at the
Right.
beginning. So all the things that comes to your association in your world is going to help you to learn and remember. And if it's a good experience, you're going to preserve it more in your memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something that I would think people sounds maybe for some so something very superficial, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's primary human being, because then what humans do through their lives is going through other communities and other associations that actually identify with themselves,
Right.
and you're looking for the same kind of experiences.
Right.
And then when marketing says, "Hey, there's 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people, we want the money, let's go."
Yeah. No, and the resource, like you said, yeah, thinking about how you were as a child and understanding that it's really not that difficult. Just think about it how you were introduced to, like you said, like your numbers and your letters, or, oh, I like this particular fruit or whatever. Your palate's clean, so you're hypersensitive to flavor. And yeah, no, 100%. And even to here at Flynn's, I can only speak for Flynn's and my other businesses that I own and run, is that the psychology that I've tried to employ to the best of my ability is, what would 10-year-old Eddie like? What would he like? What would he vibe with? And that's really helped me quite a bit. And I have these internal conversations saying, well, would 10-year-old Eddie really like this or not really? And then also being just in tune with, hey, we're here for that community of all the other people that have that nerdy side, gamer side of things. And yes, 10-year-old Eddie does have a say, but in reality, it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the community that you serve. And a lot of brands and a lot of companies that I've seen, nothing, no offense to them, but they lose focus
Hmm.
of that. And they're like, well, I've heard multiple times, well, I like this. And I would challenge that, well, what you like means absolutely nothing. Because if your community doesn't like it, like the people buying your stuff don't enjoy it, then why you're buying it for yourself, So I agree with you, being conscious of senses, being conscious of smells, colors, fonts, and
The
I
objective.
yeah, what's the objective? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And then the thing that I've also noticed is, what would you say is, let's say you're starting out building a brand, where should a person start? Because a lot of times they have a hard time starting.
Yeah, first of all, always I think the idea is to create not the final manual, but to start at a manual to put your, as I said, your concept, your plan of communications, your product, what you sell, like a small brief.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, but first, when you come to a name idea, don't go like crazy about 100 things. Try to always project what you wanna do as a strategy for to get to the objective. Because when you come to start thinking of the strategy, sometimes you start getting words and getting like the steps of what you're going to do, and then it's going to give you a final like the final concept. You know, maybe you are going to summarize it in one or two sentences, and then you will say, "Ah, hey, there are some keywords here that maybe are repeating, or maybe I'm summarizing, and I want to just stay focused in those 1, 2, 3 words, and then it will come eventually." It's an exercise. It's an exercise a lot.
And it's an evolution. Like
Yes.
you have to be comfortable with that it's going to change and it's going to grow. And I just, by the grace of God, I just stumbled across the name Flynn's because I've always liked Tron, and it has that nostalgic. Like when people hear it, Flynn's Arcade, most of the time, like, oh, that's from that '80s movie, you know. So it's like this subliminal attachment of like something they enjoy, and then that's why I also like at Flynn's 9 times out of 10 we try to keep like a really awesome selection of snacks and drinks and candies and things that are different to once again feed that inner child. You know, you're coming out, you're experiencing something different. But like you said, you have to be very aware of that community that you have to serve. So here to pivot in here at Flynn Studio, the whole objective behind the Flynn Studio idea, which I don't know if you guys know this, but we're actually recording live from inside of Flynn's hobby. There is actually a studio inside of Flynn's hobby. So that's where we're actually sitting right now. It's about I don't know, 10 by 10 space, soundproofing all around, multiple screens, stream setups, stream decks, mics, everything you could possibly want is here for you to be able to employ. Yes, like this doesn't always stay up. So like you could take the banner down. It's like totally customizable. We have multiple different types of chairs and you could arrange the setups. I believe we can fit a total of 6 individuals in this room at one time to do a podcast or recording session, or it could be just one person. So the
If you need a host, call me.
there you go. So you have if you want to venture off and do your own thing, you could easily come to Flynn's, and we'll be launching probably I'll be honest, I'll take this one on the chin, is that just with everything that's going on, it's been very difficult with time for me with being able to implement the appropriate calendar app we're going to link into the website so that people can book the space. So I am working on that, and I'm becoming more disciplined to understand what I can and cannot do for the sake of time. But I am working on that, hopefully to have it up and running within the next week or so that you'll be able to book your time slot of whenever is available on that calendar. The pricing for the studio is super affordable. But before we get to the pricing or the total investment for the studio use, Danny, what would you say is like the target, like who could make use of the Flynn studio? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Good question, because actually I believe that somebody who wants to be a content creator, not
Okay.
necessarily for geek or nerd stuff or pop culture, can do it.
Okay.
Because this space actually has, first of all, as I said, I think black combines with everything. That's good.
Right.
So that
Right.
limits with many concepts, and it's perfect for everybody who wants to create like a safe space for a podcast, or
Mhm.
even teachers if they want to do videos for classes, if you want to record voiceovers. So there's a bunch of people who can use this space. I'm going to use it as well. So soon you will see also my interviews for my fashion stuff. And actually I believe that here you can do basically everything.
Right. Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. You're able to pretty much take what you have in your head and bring it to life. Now, mind you, we are not at that level of helping curate your idea.
Hmm.
So you need to come with something.
Hmm.
And of course, we provide input if it's requested. We don't know everything. We're not experts in this, but we wanted to provide once again another cog in the bigger machine of Flynn's to be a blessing to our community. So, and it's taking quite a mission. I mean, the equipment and the room itself and the event and the expansion, all that kind of stuff took a lot of equipment, a lot of not equipment, a lot of investment to make it a reality. But once again, like you said, the target community is creators, it's podcasts, it's YouTubers, it's streamers, audiobooks, voice actors, voice actresses, musicians, lessons, uh, toy reviews, whatever you have. So to break it down, since we're sitting in the room, just kind of give you guys a walkthrough of what's actually available to you using the Flynn's studio space. We have everything, guys, from we usually have 3 camera angles. You can see the wide shot here. You can see the one directed towards myself, one directed towards Danny. And then you have obviously more angles should there be more people. They are all recording in 1080p. Yes, on Facebook, social media, you're going to see that resolution go down a little bit because it's through the internet.
Yeah.
So that's something to be conscious of. Soundproofing, like Danny suggested or stated, and I think soundproofing is important.
Yes.
I mean, because without what are your thoughts on that? Like, if you're not providing a clean, crisp product,
It,
how does that reflect on your brand?
it's really difficult. It has happened even with me on the interviews when you remember sometimes I told you guys keep down
Right. Yeah.
because yeah, it won't give you the final product as a high quality as it should be.
Right. Exactly. And if you look at like the ones the ones that have been most recently released have been on the Osmo 3. So, and we're still getting used to the angles and the proper angles and all that stuff, but the audio quality has definitely stepped up, and the soundproofing allows you to have a clean, crisp product. And then along with that, we have various mixer boards. The one we're using predominantly, I think, has 6 mic channels on the top.
Yeah.
So 6 mic channels. We also have, and you can see here on the edge, we also have headphones, should you want headphones with it as well, where you could listen intently on, hearing your voice and the levels. And then that particular mixer has an SD input. So we are actually recording, yes, on OBS, as well as we're recording the audio directly off the mixer. So it could be as simple as, well, hey, Danny and Eddie, I'm not really good at computers or setting this stuff up. Okay, no problem. Bring in SD cards and literally plug them into the 3 cameras, and then plug an SD card into the mixer board, and you're ready to rock and roll. And you're able to put stuff together.
Yes.
Super, super simple. And when it comes to the video editing stuff, I mean, I know that can be kind of daunting, but Danny, you do quite a bit of video editing
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
So what is let's say someone's thinking about, hey, maybe in the future I want to use the Flynn Studio. I mean, what tools are you using to make your editing easy and simple?
Oh well, first of all, Adobe Premiere is always the basic one that everybody can use.
Right.
But now, if you want to do it and actually send it, for example, if you are doing the vertical format, we are doing vertical format, and use CapCut in your computer or in your phone, it will work.
Right.
It has many things, and also Canvas, for example, for certain stuff. If you want to use a little AI in some or some stickers that you can introduce inside, you can also use Canvas. So there's many platforms, but I generally use those base 3.
Okay. And then I actually use, when I edit stuff, I use InShot on my cell phone.
Oh, InShot.
InShot's super simple. And then I do have a program here on the laptop that I use, but it's actually linked to my my portable SD because it's a pretty labor-intensive program. But it's called Movavi, or Movavi video editor. It's a flat fee. I think it was like $19 to buy, but it's a phenomenal tool. It's really easy to use. But once again, guys, we've been talking about brands and growing your brand or starting something new and fresh. It really is not rocket science to just start.
Exactly. The first step is always get it done. Go for it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes the scariest state of all.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the times, not most of the time, a journey starts with a first step. I can't remember the exact quote from Lord of the Rings, but there's a quote where it's he's talking to, I think Bilbo Baggins is writing his memoirs in The Hobbit, and he's something like, if you step outside your door, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna have to freaking think about it, of what that Hobbit quote is about stepping out your front door, because it's really true. And a lot of people come to me, and I'm so honored of being able to have that privilege where a lot of people come and well, how did this start? How did you do this? And the thing I want to encourage people is, I am no smarter and I'm probably dumber than you are, and you are totally capable of being able to make it a reality. And
Yeah.
it's people just this paralysis by analysis. They're thinking too much, and a lot of times you never get anything started when you think too much. So the quote I was referring to is from The Hobbit. It's about stepping out your door. It says this: "It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to." And it's true. You don't know where this is going to lead. I would have never thought, guys, in a million years,
And I,
I'd be right here. You know, like,
and I think also it's like that journey is going to evolve. So if you fail but you stand up again and you continue doing it, but you decide to do it, that's the most important thing. That people sometimes, because they fail once, they will think, wow, that's it. I can't do this anymore. And no, you have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. Like, for example, I started the blog Camaleónicas. I started in 2014, more or less.
whoa,
Yeah, I stopped it for when I created my company in 2015, 16 for like 3 years. Then I continue, but still was like up and down. The year I said continue was 2020.
well,
Um,
7 years or 6 years.
and then no, but then the pandemic hit, and
Yeah.
it really took me like down because everything is stopped in my country. Like there just 5 categories were open in those times
Whoa.
to survive. Let's put it that way.
Whoa.
To open the market and everything to buy stuff, groceries. There were just 5 categories in the whole country, so everybody stopped for real. But I said, okay, let's continue in 2020. I decided to continue Camaleónicas for real as blog and said I'm going to start doing more English, more Portuguese. I used to do it in 2018 when I decided to relaunch my website, but then in 2021 I said no. This time I'm just going to keep doing, and here we are.
Yeah. No, it's true, and just because you fall down doesn't mean you're down for a count. Like I found another Les Brown quote. I listen to a lot of emotion or not emotional, like motivational stuff when I'm working out and stuff. And this quote says, "If you fall on your back. If you can look up, you can get up."
Yeah,
That's so true. A lot of times it's people thinking they can just kind of give up because all said and done. Just one step closer might have gotten you that whatever the goal, the aspiration you're trying to reach. So I agree wholeheartedly, and that's why the target idea for the Flynn studio here at Flynn's Hobby in Margate, Florida, is to provide an avenue. Basically, nobody was doing it, so Danny, I, Chris, everybody, Senpai, well, we said no, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it, and it's not gonna be easy, but we're gonna do it, and we're gonna launch this as best as we possibly can. I'll be honest. I'm looking at a piece right now. It's not completely painted on one side. It's still a piece of wood. It bothers me, but hey, we're going to still go and do something because, I mean, that doesn't make it or break it. It doesn't really matter if that one piece, I mean, I want to paint it eventually, but it doesn't really matter. So,
here actually can say Flynn's studio.
yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, it's above the computers and everything. So, yeah, you could do it. So, in addition to allowing you to start your project with the soundproofing and cameras, we have the mixer boards where it's as simple as put in your SD card, take them out, and you'll go and edit it on the programs that we mentioned or find your own that works best for you. And also taking the video footage out of the cameras as well. So you have 3 different camera angles you can play with, multi-channel board that you can play with. Then we also have the opportunity, if you want to do live streaming or what we're calling production level, I believe that's what we refer to it as, like a production suite, where we will come in and we will set everything up for you. To make sure that the mics are synced correctly, to make sure that the OBS, which is the streaming, well, not streaming, the recording program we're using that allows streaming, is running correctly. And we will essentially be a production house for you during your production, whatever you're doing, be it a toy review or podcast or book reading, whatever it is. So we've created those 2 options, I believe it was, Danny, right? The first one's like a DIY option, right? And that total investment for that was what?
Oh,
The DIY was $30 an hour.
yes.
Right. So the DIY option is $30 an hour. If you go, I encourage you, go out there and check all the other podcast / recording areas. It's probably I think not close to probably triple.
Yes.
Close, I think, to about 90, right around under 90, $70, $90 an hour, something along that line, for like a DIY option. So that's why, once again, about Flynn's, the brand, the community. making it as affordable as possible. And then the production level suite, I believe, was just $20 more. I think it's $50. Yeah, it is $50. It's $50 an hour. And once again, that allows one of us to be here to help on the production side of things. Now, there are house rules that Danny has so elegantly put together. So we'll definitely have those on the website, right? And have those, to be a terms and conditions that you would agree to before you start your podcast. Very simple. And then here in the studio space, outside the front door, I also laminated additional rules and additional regulations of things that we want to make just very crystal clear. And nothing crazy, just once again, kind of
Making environment for everybody.
exactly matching the vibe of what Flynn stands for. It's about community, predominantly family friendly driven. That doesn't mean your podcast has to be that, but limiting certain topics or ideas and just providing a space where you can come in, have some fun, and do your thing, and it's affordable, and you're also able to support a local small business like Flynn's, like Danny's stuff, that really appreciates the support, the support financially.
Yeah, and also if you are part of what we're doing with the studio, in case you have a business and you want to participate on these interviews, you can also contact.
Yeah,
And you're more than welcome. We want to hear your story. If you have here in our social media, Flynn's, Camaleónicas, the interviews, I like to focus on the story of the people. I don't care whoever slept with. I don't care about that. I
right,
care about the story that is behind the person
right,
that makes them be part of something bigger than themselves. That it's a TV show that everybody loves and that is still on, or people after 30 years remembers that person. So it's something that just bigger than some, let's put it that way, scandalous news. I always like to go for the real story, that is how that person got there, how was their fears, their challenge, the inspirations they have, the motivations. So that's something I always want to hear from also the people that is making the South Florida community.
yeah, totally. And Danny hit it on the head with that, where we want to help you tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny is an excellent host if you need a host. And I'd be more than happy to assist in any way I can as well, where both our schedules would allow it, if one or the other, and help guide any way we possibly can. Because once again, it's all about being service centric. And a lot of times when it comes to leadership, which we are leaders in our communities, you have to have that servant mindset of how can you provide the best service possible to the community that you wish to serve, and in the end has absolutely nothing to do about me or you, but rather them.
Yes.
And when businesses and brands start losing focus of that, well, cough, cough, Disney and Star Wars, you start losing focus of what the community really wants. It could be very difficult for that brand to keep existing. Unless, of course, you are Disney and you can throw a ton of cash at anything.
Look what is happening with the last movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we talked about that. If you haven't checked it out, guys, Jake, James, Lugo, and I do Press F to Start about gaming news. We talked about Kennedy last week.
And that also
all the
is a reason
craziness.
with branding, you know what? Because they are trying to supposedly get new targets, but they forgot about all the targets through history that they have made,
Right.
who are more real or traditional or conservative, however people want to call it, but that it's a huge target.
Right.
That is the one who put you there.
Right.
You can't forget about that ever.
Yeah. It could be a mixture of both, but anyways, nonetheless, the importance of being conscious of having that servant mind leadership. And remember, you're not a leader unless people are following you.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about like your followers on Instagram, things like that. Like you want to encourage, you just want to try to be an inspiration. And me personally is just, hey, listen, if I did this, you can do it. It's not rocket science. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be exceptionally hard. And most of the time, I believe entrepreneurs, business owners are a little like, not mentally unstable, but we're willing enough to take the abuse over and over and over again.
Don't be romantic with your idea. I mean, something I think entrepreneurs happens all the time is you love an idea that you think the world is going to love
Right.
just because you love it. And it's not just about that, because you need to survive. You need money and you need food to survive. It's more like when you love something, but you do it with passion, but also being open-minded of what could happen with that. it's going to help.
Right.
Don't just be like, oh yeah, I have this great idea. It's going to be $1 million in 5 years. It's not going to happen like that.
Right.
It's going to be like hard work, learned, uh, listen to the audience, listen to the failures, learn about that, and keep going. Feedback all the time.
Totally. And once again, guys, if you want to connect and have more information or more questions, inquiries, hit up Danny on her Instagram. Hit up us here at Flynn's Gaming FL across all social media platforms. Also, we have an email that we've created specifically for the studio. It's studio@flynnsgaming.com, studio@flynnsgaming.com. You can email it to us. I'll have access to it. We'll respond as quickly as we possibly can. And we would love to help any way we can. And that brings me to, we kind of left the chair right here in the center where we are going to start introducing, various businesses, entrepreneurs, people that are working on their brand, building their brand. And we're going to do our best to do this as consistently as possible. I would say that'd probably be a goal, to do as consistently as possible. And we want you to be center and to tell your story and how we can help. How can we help you grow your brand?
I believe that every brand has a beautiful story to tell, and every person behind a brand has a really interesting story to tell. How it became something in South Florida that is not easy, as we know, but it's not impossible at the same time. I told you this. I created my own company when I was 16.
Yeah, you told me about that, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can tell them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I created my own, the idea of my company when I was 16. Of course, I didn't put any money because I was a minor.
Right.
But I have a very interesting anecdote. When I created the name of the company, I was for college. I was already in college, and I compete supposedly with the most beautiful girl in my class.
Right.
So, and she was a model. And what's very interesting is that being she is who she is, and me being the nerd, like sweaters, like the goofy girl, she was like, it's just that it wasn't fun. It makes me feel like, oh my god. Okay, so she called her company Innova because it means innovation.
Okay.
And that was it. And all the guys in the classroom, bravo, yeah. Because we were just like 5 girls, and then the rest were guys.
Right.
Everybody was like, yeah, that girl. And then I went like, yeah, well, my company's name is Percepciones, which means perceptions, because I believe publicists should understand their audience, be in their shoes, and act like what the people wants from them, like not just what you want, what actually is in the people's shoes and minds, like being like a character,
right,
and build a character. And I swear to God, the only person who clapped me back and say, why nobody clapped for her, was the teacher of the classroom.
Well, that it probably has to do with the social dynamics of the class at that time. You are 16.
Yeah.
I remember being 16. It was a rather, people getting elected for class president were just the most popular kids in school. No one, I don't even know why we gave speeches. You knew who was going to win,
Yeah, but anyways, it's like, then I realized through all these years, I created finally the company when I was 25 after I prepared myself through other companies. That again is like I never quit the game. I never quit my own dream. I just make it evolve, feel that I was prepared when I had to be prepared, and doing everything according to my life plan.
Yeah.
And now 10 years later, we survived the pandemic. When everything was closed, again, everything was closed. So literally from one day to another, I didn't have any clients because even my clients didn't know what to do with their life.
So yeah.
For over 6 months, and I still kept paying people. So imagine that. We survived the pandemic. We learned from our mistakes, and now we're even trying to export services. That's our next step.
Yeah. So it's spot on that you make it through so much. So why not keep going?
Yes.
Why not keep trying? Now there comes a time in I call it a parachute time, where I do encourage businesses and brands to consider an exit strategy. You have to be aware of what is the exit strategy. And I see it evident a lot in my circle of influence, where you have brands and business owners who are aging, and they are aging gracefully, but their season in life is changing, and they no longer want to run the day-to-day. They no longer want to necessarily be a part of running the day-to-day operations, and they're having a difficult time pivoting out. A lot of times it's a phone call that I receive from them, and it's, hey Eddie, listen, we want to sell. Would you be interested? Or do you know somebody who's interested? And that's made me very conscious too about the brand of Flynn's and the brand of my real estate company and the brand of my digital media company that services my real estate company called AccuTour. And I ask myself a lot of times, like, what is the exit strategy? And there's a great book that I'm reading right now called Exit Right, where it talks about succession leadership, which basically means that you are finding those individuals to help you pivot
Yes.
in the exit of whatever it may be. And that I love because a lot of people, I wasn't even thinking about it until I found this book I found this book at the thrift store, and it was like 25 cents. And it just opened my mind up to this idea saying, well, just because a business is no longer run by the original ownership doesn't mean they have to stop running.
Exactly.
And so I want to encourage you guys out there in TV land that if you're thinking about, well, I'm 20 or I'm 15 or I'm 45 or I'm 55, I may not want to do it all the time. Okay, that's okay. Just build that brand in a
Yeah.
way, which we're going to cover over the multiple times of getting together, and just take it one step at a time.
And once you get the business and you get the brand properly, it actually opens a lot of doors when you actually have an exit plan and you want to leave the business.
Right.
Because it's going to be, again, bigger than you, bigger than just being yourself doing something. It's going to already give a name for everybody else who needs also to still be part of your company.
Right.
So you can just give it to somebody who is prepared.
Right.
Don't give it to anybody. Like, generally try to find somebody who not
Right.
just have the money, also who have the ability, please. Because
Right.
it happens. Sometimes people just say, oh, I want to, doing some business and everything and buy a small company, but they are not prepared for that market. So also, because of the love you have for your own brand, give it to somebody who already have certain history in the business, so it can survive better.
I agree wholeheartedly. And a lot of times you have to think too, I never thought that Flynn's would really have let's call it a broadcasting studio, like where we can put our message out there. And I always kind of felt it to be irrelevant, like I was like, oh, it's cool, but it's not necessary. Now we're getting to that level where it's like, no, it is necessary because we need, once again, servant leaders to provide the best service we can for our community. And that might be waking them up and saying, hey, listen, you want to come and do the studio? Do it. You want to do podcasts? Do it. Here are these resources. Here are these tools. Just freaking do it. And don't be scared of it. So whether or not you have a podcast or a YouTube channel, maybe your channel is more based off of, like, I don't know, something that you don't think is applicable to recording. Add it. Add it as another vertical. And what I mean by a vertical is, and maybe Danny, you could explain this a little bit better than I can. When businesses have verticals, different things that they do, like, do they have to be complementary, in some way complementary to what the brand is, right?
Yeah, they have to be aligned.
Okay.
Aligned in symbols, aligning ideas, aligning concepts.
Okay.
So it has to be a 360 of how it's like being related. How is this part of your family at the end of the day?
Right.
People sometimes think, oh, we are going to do microphones and tomorrow I'm going to sell water. I mean, it's not impossible, but
Right.
how you connect one idea with the other one?
Right.
That's the whole idea, to keep your own everything in one brand to survive.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It comes down to, does it make sense for your brand? And that's why through our multiple visits over the next, hopefully, years, we're going to break that down as quickly and simply as possible. And we are going to be here for support. Once again, you could email us. You reach out to Danny through social media. Reach out to us through social media to help you as best as we possibly can. Now, we can't be everything for everybody. That's not possible. But we can more than happy to, help where we can help. And so whether or not you are selling donuts on the side of the street and you decide that you want the podcasts are irrelevant, I argue that it's not, because everyone's listening to audio, everyone's listening to podcasts, everyone loves the live stream stuff and the digital media, and just use it as another vertical in your business. And IP, or intellectual property, that's the acronym for that, intellectual property in a company is vital. It makes it more valuable. It makes it more sellable. It makes it more, it just makes it more and more. That's why with Flynn's, we took the time, and unbeknownst to myself, I have nothing to do about it. This is the wisdom God gave me. I have nothing to do with this. It just kind of fell on my lap. Is when I began planning these little communities, they just kept popping up. We had first video games and arcade games predominantly. Then Senpai came around. And Senpai's like, well, you should do tournaments. I'm like, okay, cool, man. That sounds like a cool idea. Let's do tournaments. And we did tournaments. And then the next thing that comes up, if I remember correctly, was Bob, Space Wizard. And Space Wizard was like, hey, it'd be kind of cool to have cosplay events. I'm like, all right, cool, man. I don't know how we're going to do this, but let's just do it anyways. And then we would go into other things, like we would do events outside, and we would do then we started getting into build and paint nights, where we would literally, guys, for those of you who don't know this, Flynn's started off not 4,000 square feet, which technically Flynn's Arcade and Flynn's Hobby is 7,000 square feet now. Where it just started on that one side of the arcade. It was 1,650 square feet, tiny. You know where the opening in the wall is?
Yes.
It was just that side. It was just that one side where you walk in, just that one side for almost 2 years. Just that. We had maybe 25 arcade machines, maybe 9 video game consoles. Everything was crammed in that one room. And every Thursday, what we would do is we would push all the machines to the side, put tables, have these lights rigged where they would kind of hang above you so that we could see as we built our Gundam. And we just kind of did that, and then it evolved from Gundam. Now the guys here on Sundays, they play Warhammer. I believe they're doing a Learn to Play Warhammer 40K. Join our Discord, guys. Links are in our bio as well, where they're able to once again do the Warhammer, and then now the hobby stuff, and then where you and Chris came in with the celebrity signings.
Yes.
I would have never thought, Danny, in a million years. Like, I still remember that phone call from Jason Font, the Red Power Ranger from Time Force. I'd reach out to him on a flume, and I'm like, hey, Jason, or I was like, would you come to a guest signing? And I just asked him, and then he called me. And I remember sitting there and telling Danny, my wife Danny, not you, Danny, but like the other Danny, and telling Danny and being like, hey, listen, this is crazy. I would have never thought I just got off the phone with a Power Ranger. That's like blows my mind. And now where we're at, with Rikishi this past weekend and Jason Austin St. John, and Danny Cooksey and Sean Weiss and Stephanie Nadoni and, Dimitri and Adisher and Spencer, all these individuals, I consider them friends. And it's cool to have these contacts. So, nonetheless, the whole point of this is you never know where the wind's going to take you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because when I told the Red Power Ranger, I wanted to be him.
Oh, Austin?
Not the
pink one? You don't want to be the pink one?
I never wanted to be the pink one.
Do you want to be Kimberly?
No, because that was a girl's thing.
Right.
I wanted to be the leader one. And I fight with my cousins. I fight with all my cousins to be the red one. I was never able to be the red one because I was one of the smallest one.
And what happened when the green one came around?
Yeah, then, there was a second chance, but still, I was just a girl surrounded by boys.
Okay. So, exactly. You emulate these. It's just really cool, guys, to see where the Flynn's family has gone and where it's heading. And once again, adding potentially the Flynn studio to your repertoire of, hey, I want to launch a podcast. I want to launch a video series. I want to launch a product review. We know, and Danny has done such a great job with this, we know that most people can't afford to do a setup like this. They don't have the space.
Yeah, there's
very limited space. And I mean, I'll be honest, guys, we could be using this space for something else.
Mm-hmm.
But when we came into it, we all kind of got into it like, yo, this could be a studio, a space for creative awesomeness for people to jump into whatever they want to jump into within certain limits, of course. And just be a part of that community. So we wanted to make this first episode, guys, or this first video, just to welcome you to Flynn's studio. And we are here, yes, and we are here with Danny Whitco, and once again we're gonna just dive in just ever so briefly about the social media channels and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to say that if there is a podcast or something that you want to do, by all means reach out through email, studio@flynsgaming.com, social media, Flynn's Gaming FL, across all platforms. Or if you stop in on the hobby shop side, when we're open, which we're open Tuesday through Thursday from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m., or no, I apologize, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. On Fridays, we're open from, my bad, I apologize, guys. My brain's all fried. So Tuesdays through Thursdays, it's 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. On Fridays, it's 6 p.m. to midnight. On Saturday and Sunday, it's 2 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
So swing by if you want to ask questions. Danny may not always be here, or I may not always be here, but one of our staff, our team members, our Flynn's team members will be here. Chris or Katie or Adri or whoever, you know.
Our social media.
Yeah, exactly. Or hit us up. But for those of you who would like to come in real life, excuse me, for those of you who would like to come into real life, feel free to come by in real life. So just in wrapping up, Danny, I always want to leave people with a nugget of gold. What would be someone's thinking of launching a brand? Or remember that maybe they've never considered it. What is step one? Or even what's step one of step one for them to be able to start in that direction?
So make it, I was sounding very romantic about this, but make it with passion. Like the idea that you are in love with, that you know that is going to have a very potential target,
Mm-hmm.
identify it and go for it. Like for me, there's nothing like a brown market, and that's something that actually United States taught me through life. Here you find everything for everyone. Like there is no a small market, so every market could be a potential for something else.
Right.
And I will say just go for it. And remember, things will evolve. So don't just go to stick to an idea, evolve with your own market and with your own audience.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree with that. And that's just one simple step, guys, to kind of springboard you into that direction. And I find in my walk, people are eager to talk about where they failed
Mm-hmm.
and what they could do better. So if you're thinking about, I don't know, starting to sell donuts on the corner, go talk to that person who's been selling donuts for the last 70 years and ask them, hey, what are your pitfalls, or how did you start, and see what happens there, you know? So before we end, guys, I want to go through the questions. We have been getting questions on social media. I apologize for not seeing them because I had the wrong window open, but we're going to try to do more Q&As. So if you have questions, by all means, answer them appropriately.
At least let's answer 3.
Yeah. Well, there's not a whole lot, but I also I gotta add a light here because my face looks extra dark right now. Like I look super tan in one of the live streams, but that's okay. Okay, so Chaotic Melody on Instagram says, we love Flynn's, hosting our son's birthday party there this weekend. Thank you, Chaotic Melody 15. For those of you who don't know, we do host birthday parties here at Flynn's Arcade and Flynn's Hobby Shop, and adults' birthday parties. We have a bunch of adult birthday parties, not like adult like Triple X. I'm talking about like adult, like, you know, grown-ups, you know, parties. And we do private and public parties, and super affordable, very awesome, and literally come here, have fun, and just go home. Let us clean up the mess for you. So thank you, Chaotic Melody, for your input there. We have a question here, or no, a comment, another one. Free Spirits 8 says, hi, you are all so incredible and amazing. You astonishing and vibrant cosmic starlights. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Free Spirits 8, for that comment. We appreciate that. We try to be as cosmetic or cosmic as possible.
Touch my heart.
So there you go. And that's about building a good brand. We have Eddie Garcia on Facebook asking, start by identifying your target audience when you're building a brand. Yeah, 100%. And I suggested reading or listening to This is Marketing by Seth Godin. Super simple book. And there's a bunch of different other books that you could read. But yeah, I agree 100%. What do you think? Do you agree with that comment?
Yeah,
Start.
As what I said, idea and audience. Like if you don't have, because of course you can go to the audience, but if you don't have the idea, how you know the audience? So you think about the idea that you want, but identifying your audience. Basically, it's the same.
Right, exactly. And you're able to kind of springboard off there. And remember, you're not creating this for yourself.
Yes.
It's for others.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a good idea and you're like, oh, I don't really like that, it helps to have passion in it. But I've told you guys time and time again, the last video game I probably played willingly on my own, other than the arcade games, is probably like from PlayStation 2. Because it's just like it got so caught up into it. But that doesn't mean I can't provide an awesome environment for those who want to play on the PS5 or the Nintendo Switch
PS1.
or there you go, it's PS1, even older than me. So like PS1, exactly. So you figure out what your audience wants. Also, Eddie Garcia comment here. Can you speak to how does your studio space differ than something someone can do from home? Do you want to take the lead on that? So once again, can you speak to how does your studio space differ than something someone can do from their home?
Well, first of all, the amount of space we have right here, right now, I think that makes a big difference. First, first things first, like the setup of all the computers and the microphone, so the audio video together is a huge plus. Then we go through the space that is up to 6 people that can be sitting comfortable in this place. The fact that also you can actually change. So if you have more than one idea, for example, let's say a teacher, you can be a teacher of math and then science. You can change the whole background,
Yeah.
and you can customize the space. And also, it's soundproof, so you won't have. I don't know if Eddie it's Latin because it sounded Latin. Garcia, it's his last name.
Yeah, Garcia's the last name.
So you don't have your Latin mother screaming, "Hey, mijito, ¿qué estás haciendo ahí?"
Yeah, exactly.
At least that's something I had. Well, I used to have in Peru. Now I have it with New Yorkers because my husband's family is from New York and they are also very loud.
Right.
So that's something we are safe proof from the family. So
No, I agree 100%. And to bounce off of that, like Danny was saying with the production equipment,
yeah,
the mixer boards, the mics, the computer setup, the knowledge of how to use OBS, the soundproofing, the space itself physically, these are all components that aren't necessarily like you couldn't do it at home, but we've done the heavy lifting for you. And so since we've done the heavy lifting for you, we want to give you the opportunity to be like, hey, why not come over here and just do it here and get your idea running quicker than waiting. And so, and once again, Eddie, we can, your name's Eddie, my name's Eddie too. The fact that we're able to provide this service is what we're shooting for.
yeah.
And so if one person uses it or 2 people use it or 500 people use it, that's amazing. And we hope to add more and more features and taking input of what we can do better. And that's how we're trying. We're not trying. We're keeping it as affordable as possible. So the DIY where you come in, we will open up, have the ACs on, and all that kind of stuff. You add your SD cards to the cameras. You add your SD card to the mixer. We make sure everything's set up correctly, and you just go. That is $30 an hour plus tax. And then for the production level of things, where we do production for you, it's $50 an hour, where we'll have someone in here, myself, Danny Senpai, Chris, whoever, in here, set up the OBS for you, set up to 2 streaming channels appropriately for you as well. And that's $50 an hour. And then we're working right now on being able to link it in with a calendar option so it'll all be streamlined. Now, jumping over to Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube, we have Media Nut. Hey, Pedro, I don't know if you're still watching, but Pedro, the Media Nut, be sure to check him out, guys. He's a man of many voices and many talents, always high energy. He was one of the OGs on our Instagram feed and our social media. You'll see photos of him and I on opening night because he was one of our volunteers on opening night. He still has the original OG purple T-shirt, which a lot of people don't know that exists, but it does exist, a purple T-shirt. So anyways, Media Nut, Pedro, says, sending much love to you all. And then he's like, Flynn Studio, color me curious. And he's like, I guess the first big question I have is, what is Flynn Studio? So you're good in branding, and we've kind of answered it in some ways, but you're good in branding, Danny. So what is Flynn Studio? If you had a mission statement, for your brand, what is Flynn Studio?
If a space for all the nerds and all the community of South Florida to come and create and feel free to create with passion what they love in content.
Right. Yeah, I think that's totally true. Just come and create.
Yes.
Come and create. We want to make sure, we want to provide a space that's as affordable as possible for you to create whatever. You get it out of you. Silverback Senpai, what about Call of Duty Warzone back in the pandemic days? Oh, that's true. We did play it on the PlayStation 4, but thank you, Senpai. I completely forgot about those days. During the pandemic because Flynn's opened December 7th, 2019. So we literally we opened our doors on the 7th and we closed our doors like 2 months later. And we closed our doors for what was it, like here in Florida, it was like 2.5 months, something like that.
I think so. Here in Florida, it was like 2 months.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 months, something like that. I think it was under 3 months. But yes, we did do Call of Duty streams on PS4 where it'd be like him. We get all the guys here on the other side, and we'd hook up all the PlayStation 4s, and it'd be like him, Chris, no, him, Will, our buddy Alex, myself, and a couple other random people, and we used to do these like streams of Call of Duty. I was horrible at it. I'm horrible at Call of Duty. I like to play it, but I'm not very good at it. But that's the whole point of video games, right? Just enjoy it, through the whole time.
I'm all PS1 by heart.
Yeah.
Seriously, I can't change, and I love the Disney's 64, like the Aladdin, Tarzan, all those old school. I like the first Mario as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love all those.
Cool. I can't complain. We have N64 here for people to play and enjoy if they want to play it or enjoy it. So come on down to Flynn's, guys. We're here until on Sundays till 12 a.m. And any last closing remarks? First off, just to wrap up, if you want to get in contact with Danny directly, where can they get in contact with you?
Well, you can write to me at camaleonicas@camaleonicas.com, or you can also through social media, especially Instagram, through Danny Whitco, Camaleonicas, again, CAMALEONIZAS.
Whoa.
And well, the Persa Life, which is my company's one. Those are my social media stuff. And well, where else? I can give my phone number.
Well, your social media and emails, guys. If you have any questions about branding, or you're looking for a branding manager or a branding advocate or a branding coach, I would imagine hit up Danny. She could definitely help you, as she's so eloquently helped us here at Flynn's to help us refocus our brand and to grow it and to point me in a certain direction of it. So definitely you can find her there, and you can find us here at Flynn's Gaming FL across all social media platforms. That's Flynn's Gaming FL. You could also hit us up through email at studio, STUDIO, at flynnsgaming.com. And then, of course, here at Brick and Mortar in real life at 5901 Margate Boulevard and 5869 Margate Boulevard. The arcade is right next door to the Flynn's Hobby Space. And then you could also call us at 954-281-9778, 954-281-9778, and we can help any way we possibly can. So anyways, excuse me, in closing, guys, if you want to be a part of the I don't even know if we have a name for this, but if you want to be part of the Flynn Studio broadcasts, hit us up. We'd love to have you on, bring exposure to your business and tell your story to the best of our ability. And yeah, it's going to be awesome. So any last closing words, Danny, or anything like that?
Thank you so much for the ones who listen. Please share it if you know any entrepreneurs or any business that could be part of this family. Just tell them.
Yeah, exactly. We appreciate any shares, hearts, likes, and comments. And if you're able to make it out to Flynn's Arcade in real life, we also appreciate your financial support, because like any small business, especially with a brick and mortar, we would not be able to survive without you beautiful people out there. Remember, we have some upcoming events straight out of the gate. We have Sunrise Comic-Con on March 15th. We have various panelists. I know Snarky J is going to be there. I know Jake James Lugo has a panel there. I know Chris from Phonetically Correct also has his panel there, and we will be there slinging exotic snacks and freeze-dried candies and stuff, along with like TCG and Gundam and all that stuff. That is March 15th, I believe, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. in Sunrise, Florida at the Sunrise Civic Center. And then, of course, guys, we have a bunch of conventions coming down the pipe, including Palm Cons coming up. We also have the Hobby Show in August. You have Otaku Fest in June. You have Florida SuperCon in July. You have Miramar Comic Con. You have FinCon. You have all these awesome opportunities to connect with your community. And here at the arcade, we have, once again, guys, every Tuesday, Pokemon League from 6:30 to 9. On Wednesdays, Dungeons & Dragons starting at 7 p.m. No experience is needed to do that. If you want to join our Dungeons & Dragons League here at 7 p.m. On Tuesdays, on the arcade side, we have $10 Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we launched something really cool that Chris and Terry and everybody came up with called Respawn Wednesdays, where if you come to the arcade on Wednesdays and enjoy it for just $15 unlimited play, and you keep your Wednesday wristband, you can bring it back on either Saturday or Sunday for an additional day of play. So it's kind of like a buy one, get one we do on Wednesdays. Then on Thursdays, we have Build and Paint Night from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. here on the hobby side. And then on the arcade side, we have $3 taps, which means our tap beer, ciders, and beers and ciders. And then $3 off our mixed drinks. And then Fridays are fighting game tournaments. Saturdays, man, we got a lot going on. Saturdays we're usually just open doing our random stuff, be it board games or FGC tournaments, and then Sundays Warhammer here, and of course the arcade's always open. So we got a lot of stuff going, guys. Spring break is right around the corner. If you're looking for a spot for your spring break to come and enjoy your camp, your youth group, your sports team, whatever, hit us up. So, anyways, guys, appreciate you tuning in this evening. A little tidbit about Flynn Studio. Hit us up. We look forward to hearing from you very soon, and we hope you have an absolutely amazing rest of the day.